everyone, Kat here, and as promised, I am not just a workout channel. I want to be more of a lifestyle channel that talks all about having a healthy lifestyle, not specifically about workouts, not specifically about diets, not specifically about mental health. It's all really connected. When you're exercising, you're taking care of yourself, you're eating healthy, you're really taking the time that you need to figure out if you're in a good spot. That's what really creates the happiness and the cohesive, good environment for growth, personal growth, success, everything. So today I wanted to talk about something that I think is super misunderstood, and that's all of the different diet terminology that is getting thrown around now. So I found what I think are some of the most popular and the most commonly talked about diets. I did a little bit of research on them. I looked into what their core beliefs are, what some of the benefits are health-wise, and what some of the possible disadvantages are. So I want to start by saying that I don't endorse any of these diets in particular. At the end, I am going to discuss personally what I find the most effective and helpful. So let's just jump right into it. I don't want to take up a ton of your time. I just want to pass along some information and hopefully dispel some confusion. Because I know when I hear a lot of these terms, I take the time to look them up because otherwise I feel like I'm not informed in a very common discussion that I'm hearing all the time. I'm on this diet, and I don't even know what they're talking about. So let's get rid of that. Let's figure out what's really going on, and let's just kick it right off. So number one that I hear all the time is a paleo diet. So what the heck is paleo? Paleo stands for Paleolithic. A Paleolithic diet is related to the hunter-gatherer diet that our society originally started out as. So when people were back before agriculture was developed and they were moving about in tribes where women were gathering, men were hunting, and they were really just living off of the land, not even farming. They were just taking what was there. So the focus of Paleolithic diets are whole foods in general, no processed foods, lean meats, veggies, fruits, nuts, and seeds. So things that thousands and thousands of years ago they would be able to find on their own without planting a single seed, the things that the earth already had to offer. Some of the things that a Paleolithic diet would discourage is obviously processed foods, sugars, things like that, but they also discourage grains and dairy because those things were not around at that point. And their whole idea is that our body is not actually equipped to process and utilize these nutrients. So they say that we weren't meant to be drinking cow's milk. We weren't meant to be eating dairy products. And that's why a lot of people are now having these allergies and having these intolerances towards them. And the same goes with gluten and with grains. We were never meant to process them, so we don't have the ability to process them effectively. And that leads to a lot of people having various problems surrounding them consuming grains, especially when they're eating grains, mostly. So what are some of the benefits? We have reduced risk of heart disease, reduced cholesterol, reduced blood sugar, reduced blood pressure, and weight loss. So obviously that sounds fantastic. It reduces the risks of a lot of the diseases of civilization. And those are really fantastic things to hear because as you know, or as you hopefully know, we are in a time right now where those diseases of civilization are killing more people than accidents, than many other things that used to be much higher on the list. But those heart disease, the metabolic diseases, the diabetes, things like that. So it reduces your risk of a lot of those diseases, and also it can contribute to weight loss because you're not eating those extra calories that are really empty calories that can come from really processed foods and from consuming too many grains. Some of the negatives that I found, I really didn't find any health per se negatives. I think that it can be really helpful for you, especially if you already know that you have maybe a gluten intolerance or a dairy intolerance, but it can be very restrictive. It's hard to go out, to socialize, to eat with friends, or even to find quick meals on the go if you can't eat anything processed at all and you can't eat any dairy, any grains. Second, it's very expensive. So obviously everybody that has done their own grocery shopping, you see the comparison between the middle aisles where all the processed food is and the area surrounding the middle aisles or the outskirts of the grocery store where the meats and the vegetables and the fruits and things like that, where those are much more expensive. And the last thing is it obviously requires a lot more time. You're not just going to be able to go out and pick food up on the way. You are going to have to meal prep. You are going to have to meal plan. And time is a valuable resource. We all usually are feeling very pressed for time. So throwing another thing in there can seem complicated. But as a health side, I would give it a thumbs up. It's definitely a very healthy thing. There are just some trade-offs that you have to take into account before you just jump right in. Number 2, we have vegan. So vegetarian is somebody that doesn't consume animals. They don't eat animals. A vegan is somebody that doesn't consume any animal products. So the main difference there is vegetarian, they just no meats, but they'll eat eggs, they'll drink milk, things like that. A vegan goes so far as to not only not eat meats, not eat fish, not eat poultry, they won't eat honey, they won't eat any sort of dairy products. They won't eat gelatin, whey protein, casein, anything like that, because those are all animal-derived things. They also usually tend to use skincare products that weren't tested on animals, because veganism usually isn't just a diet. It's something that's more environmental. It's more considering the treatment of the animals and cruelty and fairness. So there's a lot more justice and rights and things. It's a very hot and heavy issue, you can say. There's a lot more going into it than just people wanting to lose weight. But we're just looking at it from a health perspective. Obviously, if you choose to be vegan because you want to help the planet, it's a lot better for the planet when people are vegan, because having a bunch of cows or having a big field of crops, the cows have a lot heavier environmental load. And that goes all the way down the line. So it's better for the environment. Also, there's the whole thing of thinking about, like, if you were an animal, would you really want to be eaten or treated the way a lot of animals are in mass farming? Probably not. But that's a whole different topic. We're talking about the health of being a vegan. So, some of the benefits. It's low fat and it's high in fiber. You have a very good chance of having a lower BMI and a lower body weight. Also, it reduces those diseases of civilization that we were talking about, heart disease, diabetes, and premature death in general. So those are obviously very positive things. If you are looking at a vegan lifestyle and a vegan diet and you are doing it the right way with a lot of plant-based derivatives, so if you are focusing on changing away from the animal products and moving towards the plant products, then that's fantastic. A plant-based diet is always beautiful and wonderful and great for your body. Our bodies love plants. There are so many vitamins, so many nutrients that you can get that come out of plants. So, what could possibly be the negatives behind being a vegan? A, if you're not careful, you have the possibility of having a lot of different deficiencies. You can be protein deficient. You cannot have enough vitamin C, vitamin D, and 100 other vitamins down the list. So you really have to plan, and you have to think accordingly and plan your meals to make sure that you're still taking in enough of those essential vitamins that you might not be getting from your diet. So you have to really consider your meals in advance. The second thing is something that I see all the time, and it is people that decide to be vegan and they do it for whatever the reason that it may be. But instead of going from that animal-based, very focused on animals and animal products, they go to processed alternatives. Now, where is the problem in going from real animal-based food to the processed alternatives of those foods? Obviously, processed foods are never better for us. B, you don't have any of those health benefits that come from getting rid of the animal products. The reason that you have all those health benefits of getting rid of the animal products is that a lot of animal products increase your cholesterol, increase your risk of heart disease, things like that. But if you're eating things that are highly processed and also very high in trans fats and saturated fats, you haven't done yourself any favors. You've actually made it even worse, because not only are you still eating those foods that are high in those very bad fats that clog up your arteries, you're eating processed versions of them. So my biggest recommendation, if you're thinking about being vegan, please make sure that you plan on being a plant-based vegan. You're really turning to your fruits, your vegetables, things like that, to make sure that you're still getting all of those beautiful vitamins and minerals that you need that you're not going to find in those processed alternatives. So, I'll get off my podium now and move on. The next diet that I have is keto, or a ketogenic diet. I hear this one, especially recently, all the time. So what the heck is keto? All that means is a very high fat and a very low carb diet. There are many different variations of keto or keto-like diets that are very high in fat, very low in carbs. So the goal of eating keto is ketosis. And this is when your body produces ketones and they use the ketones as energy. So what then are, I know a lot of people might have heard about this. People have been talking about this, the dangers of going keto. So, ketosis, like we said, when the body uses ketones for energy rather than using glucose. So glucose comes from carbs. If you eat a high carb diet, you get most of your energy from glucose. It's your body's preferred energy source. The problem with eating a very high carb diet, or some could say the problem, is that your blood glucose levels are constantly going up and down, and that causes your pancreas to constantly secrete insulin to keep your blood sugar levels steady. So, when you eat a high-fat diet, it gives your pancreas a break. Instead of using the glucose for the constant source of energy, you're using the ketones. But then there's another word that's been out there a lot recently, and that's ketoacidosis. And ketoacidosis is not the same as ketosis. Ketosis, using fat as fuel. Ketoacidosis, extremely high levels of carbs and fats in the blood. So there's an obvious difference. Ketosis is just using fat as fuel. Ketoacidosis, dangerous condition with a lot of fats and a lot of ketones and very high level of blood glucose. So who does ketoacidosis tend to happen to? It happens to people that are diabetic, and it happens to people that abuse alcohol. So let's just take that off the table now that we've talked about that difference. Ketosis. Ketosis is not dangerous. The people that ketosis can be dangerous for are pregnant women, children, and people that have lack of ability to keep their blood sugar level under control, whether they have an existing metabolic condition or they may just be hypo or hyperglycemic. So, other than that, keto is a really good option for you. So some of the health benefits, you can have weight loss. A lot of people experience weight loss because they tend to feel satiated or fuller longer. There's not as many options because you're not eating as many carbs, and like we all know, those carbs are what we tend to crave and what we tend to overeat. Another benefit, you have a lower risk of cholesterol, which reduces your chance of heart disease. And like we said before, when you're eating that high carb diet, your pancreas is constantly secreting insulin to try to keep those blood glucose levels down. If you stop eating so many carbs and change over to your main energy source being fats, it improves your body's blood sugar control and your body's insulin sensitivity. So when insulin is secreted, your blood sugar levels go down much quicker with a lot less insulin. Now, why is that positive? That reduces your chance of diabetes, because diabetes, type 1 diabetes, you are born with. Type 1 diabetes is you produce no insulin and you need to inject insulin. That has nothing to do with somebody's habits or lifestyle. That is something that they were unfortunately born with. Type 2 diabetes means that you have had a lifestyle where you do not have enough exercise, where you eat far too many carbs, and that leads your body to be less sensitive to insulin because it's constantly pumping it out. So your body isn't as good at keeping that blood sugar level at a good level. So that's obviously beneficial. There also have been a lot of reports recently that it helps acne. So for people that struggle with acne, I've struggled with it in the past, most people have, you know it can be very frustrating. It feels like nothing's going to help. So there have been a lot of studies that have shown that it actually really helps with acne. It helps a lot of people that nothing else had helped. So what are some of the negatives? Most of these negatives that I'm going to list are things that go away within the first few weeks. When you're changing your body's way of producing energy, there are going to be some reactions. Your body is not going to go down without a fight. It wants glucose. It wants those blood sugar spikes. It wants that quick energy. Just like that instant gratification culture, your body is the same way. So some of the possible things that you may experience: headache from not having that glucose, from not having those carbs; fatigue, you're getting used to using fat as energy; constipation, you have a lot lower fiber content when you're eating a high fat diet. So you really still have to make sure that you're eating a lot of leafy greens to make up for the fact that you're not eating as many carbs as you usually do. Bad breath. The ketosis can cause bad breath and bad breath smells. That doesn't obviously cause any health problems, but most people don't like that. And lastly, in kids that were given this protocol, so keto was originally given to kids. It was a prescribed diet for kids that had epilepsy. So for kids that were epileptic and prescribed this diet, a lot of them experienced kidney stones. So that's another possible negative side effect. The second to last thing that I'm going to talk about is the MIND diet. And this also is a derivative of an originally medically prescribed diet. So a lot of times the diets that doctors are prescribing, they're not going to hurt. And we tend to take them into non-medical culture when we start seeing some of the benefits that people that were prescribed the diet had. So the MIND diet, it's a really long name, Mediterranean dash intervention for neurodegenerative delay. So the DASH diet is a diet that's prescribed to people that have hypertension. It is a Mediterranean-based diet, and everyone knows, like, the Mediterraneans, they're the most healthy, they eat the best diet. So it's derived from that, but the goal of this MIND diet is what it sounds like. It is to help people's brains and reduce the risk of Alzheimer's. And it has been shown to reduce the risk of Alzheimer's by 53%. And anybody that knows somebody with Alzheimer's that has been experiencing it themselves, has a family member or friend, you know, can be devastating. It is always devastating. Right now we don't have a cure. We don't have very many things that can even decline the progression. So if there is anything that we can do, especially for people that already know it runs in their family, it is fantastic to know that there's something that we can do. So they tried to make it really simple for people. The DASH, the Dietary Advice, I don't know, I can't remember it now. I took my personal training test and some of it just went right back out. But it's basically an intervention for people that have hypertension or have high blood pressure. That's who it was originally made for. But now this MIND diet that's been transitioned to create healthier minds and to create the reduced risk of Alzheimer's, they break it up, they make it really easy. They have 10 brain healthy food groups and 5 brain unhealthy food groups. So we'll start with the brain healthy food groups, and they're in descending order for the healthy ones. Green leafy vegetables, that is always good for you. There is never a time where eating green leafy vegetables is not on one of these dietary plans, if you haven't seen. Veggies in general, nuts, berries, beans, whole grains, fish, poultry, olive oil, and a lot of people are gonna get excited about this one, wine. The 5 unhealthy food groups. So the ones that are healthy, you can eat them, you can enjoy them. Obviously, in descending order, you want to eat the most of the top, you want to have the least of the bottom. And the 5 unhealthy are the ones that you want to avoid or eat very minimally, like on special occasions. And this is in ascending order. So the first one that I list is the least bad, the last one I list is the most bad. So we have red meat, butter, margarine, same, cheese, pastries, and fast and fried food. A lot of that is pretty intuitive. We know that fast and fried food is not the best for our bodies. Pastries, you know when you're eating a pastry that you're not really giving your body what it needs. You can feel it. Cheese, it's really not the best for you. It's not even the best form of dairy for you. Butter, we all know, butter and margarine. They're a nice addition, but they're not great for you. And red meat, it has a lot of benefits, but it's very high in that trans-saturated fat that we were talking about earlier. So what's the difference between different types of fat? Quick lesson here. So a monosaturated fat is a fat that doesn't increase your risk of having high cholesterol because it is a fat that helps your body, that helps aid in reformation, helps amino acids, it helps with a lot of different things. The saturated fats, and the saturated fats are bad enough. Those are the fats that increase your risk of, all of the disease, all of the heart problems that we were talking about, increases your risk of blood clots. The worst is the trans fats, because the trans fats are made in a laboratory, and their goal is to make monosaturated fats solid at room temperature. So out of all of them, trans fats are worse for you. If just a quick little recommendation, if you see trans fats on the food label, don't eat it. That is the worst thing you can possibly have for you of the fat groups. There's obviously so much more that we can talk about. But the last and final thing is not a diet, it's more of like a lifestyle. All of them are really lifestyles, but this is literally a lifestyle. It doesn't tell you what to eat, it actually tells you when to eat. So this is intermittent fasting. So, what the heck is intermittent fasting? That's when you cycle your body between fasting and eating. Very intermittent fasting. You fast intermittently. Sometimes you fast, sometimes you eat. Just to break down the word there a little bit. So there's different types of intermittent fasting. Everybody doesn't do it the exact same way. So a few of the different types are the 16-8 method, where you have a 16-hour fasting window and an 8-hour eating window. So say that I'm going to make it easier for myself. Say that you start eating at noon. You'd stop eating at 8, and you wouldn't eat again until noon the next day. So why? It gives your body 16 hours to not have to process food, and it allows your body throughout that whole 16 hours to do all of the other things that it has to do. The eat, stop, eat method. This is where you fast for 24 hours twice a week. So you get the benefits of fasting, but you don't have to do it every day. The 5-2 method is for 2 non-consecutive days of the week, you eat 500 to 600 calories. So it's a limited form of that eat, stop, eat method. And the last one is the warrior diet, which I personally think would be the hardest one. This is you only eat raw fruits and veggies throughout the whole day, and then you have one really large meal at night. So I think that this could be really good for people that are on the go, for people that work all the time. But I work as a personal trainer. I definitely couldn't do this. I would pass out. I would feel horrible. So if you're doing the warrior diet and you found it helpful for you, more power to you. So some of the benefits: weight loss, increased metabolic rate, reduced inflammation, reduced cholesterol and blood sugar, improve cellular repair, improve insulin sensitivity. That's a lot of benefits. The only downside is it's not meant for everyone. It's not recommended for pregnant women, and it's not recommended for children and infants and people that have a difficult time monitoring their blood sugar. Same thing as keto, if you hadn't noticed. So, we talked about paleo, that Paleolithic diet like that our ancestors ate. Only eat what they would have eaten thousands of years ago. Then we talked about vegan. For a vegan, you eat no animal products. My biggest recommendation, make sure you're a plant-based vegan. The third thing we talked about was keto. High fat, low carbs. Make sure that you are still eating enough fiber if you're going keto with those green leafy vegetables. The mind diet, which is that modified DASH diet to make your brain function better. Eat the things you know you should be eating and limit the things you know you shouldn't. And last, intermittent fasting, giving your body a break for certain periods of the day or the week so it can do other things. So, my recommendations. I don't diet. I have done it in the past. I have tried it in the past. It doesn't work for me. It's not that I yo-yo diet. I just get way too into it. I get way too restrictive, and I know this about myself. So what I do is I eat a ton of fruits and vegetables. I make that the majority of my plate. I pick my fruit or my vegetables, especially vegetable, first. Then I do a very small portion of grains, less than the size of my palm. And then I do a protein source. I try to only eat red meat twice a week, and it's this size. So that's how I stick to intuitive eating. I eat when I'm hungry. I stop eating when I'm full. The basis of my plate is vegetables. I eat fruit, plenty of fruit in the morning. I like to have a fruit salad or yogurt. I still eat dairy because dairy doesn't affect me, but I make sure that I have the healthiest version. I'm not just chugging butter. I have the healthier version of dairy. If I want to occasionally indulge in something, I will, because I know that a lot of people that are on restrictive diets, that's their problem. They don't let themselves eat it, and they think about it, and they think about it, and they think about it, and that's where they end up falling, because they give in to their temptation, and then they just fall off the wagon. No, if I want to have a bagel, let's say, I'll think about it, I'll plan it ahead of time, and I'll really enjoy that bagel, but then I won't let it ruin the rest of my day. And I do try to do intermittent fasting. I try to close up my eating window to 8 to 9 hours a day. So I try to only eat between, like I said, 8 to 9 hours per day so that I can give my body the rest of that time to do the other things that it has to do. So that's just for me. It's completely up to you what works best for you, and do some experimenting. You can try modified versions of everything that we've talked about and see which one works for you. And it doesn't have to be a diet. You're developing your version of a healthy lifestyle. That should be your whole goal with nutrition, with healthy eating in general, is to find what works for you and works for your body. So this has been Kat, as always, strong, not skinny, mixing it up a little bit, not doing a workout, telling you a little bit about some crazy nutrition terms that you might have been hearing lately. So thank you guys so much, as always, and please let me know if there's any other topics you'd like me to talk about, any other workouts you would like to see. I'm happy to do them, and thank you guys so much for subscribing. If you haven't already, please do. Thank you guys so much.